Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Westall UFO Encounter. In 1966, in Melbourne, Australia, over 200 students and teachers witnessed a UFO. And it's one of the most prolific Australian sightings, if not global sightings, ever. So let's take a closer look, y'all. We're going to be taking a look at two separate videos giving us details about this case, all right? So if you want to watch the videos without my commentary, links are in the description. If you're new to the channel, y'all, and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. I put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day. And please hit that like button, vetters. That really helps out the videos. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below. What do you think about this case? Westall, 1966, Melbourne, Australia. Over 200 students and teachers. It's crazy. Let's go. Let's dive in. All right, I've already got this first clip queued up. Again, this is part of like a 4-part documentary, so we're going to play 2 parts. Again, links in the description. Go check it out for yourself if you don't want my commentary. But again, let's jump into this. This is quite exciting.
Soon after my son was born, I began to reflect on a story I'd heard many years before. It was a story about the power adults hold over children. The stories we tell them, and the stories, like this one, that they are never meant to hear. The 6th of April 1966 started just like any other day in the city of Melbourne. Then something very strange appeared in the sky above the suburb of Westall. It hasn't been explained to this day.
This boy come running in and say, Mr. Greenwood, there's these things in the sky, these things in the sky.
We looked up and we just saw this saucer type thing taking off.
It wasn't a plane, it wasn't a balloon, it was nothing like that.
A lot of the kids took off towards where it seemed to go.
All the students were just running all over the place, hysterical.
Westall High School as a teaching situation ceased.
My girlfriend and I sat on the fence, climbed the fence, the school boundary, and we were crying, thinking it was the end of the world.
This is a mystery story that has, as its setting, a school. And most of the players were school children. They had this extraordinary experience, which they then tried to share with adults. And a lot of them had a lot of trouble doing that. They were disbelieved, almost stigmatized.
I think like a lot of other people, I just shut up about it because of the ridicule. And it was everybody. You know, you were a kid, you were making it up. So you just be quiet, and in your mind you just think, I know what I saw, and no one's ever going to shake me from that. I know what I saw.
I really felt for them as people who had this incredible experience, and yet they haven't been able to make sense of it. This is the biggest mass UFO sighting in Australia, yet it seems to have been suppressed, deliberately kept out of the public view. Like the witnesses, I want to find out why. Whatever material was created about this story has simply been buried.
I mean, you're not doing a UFO investigation unless you're in some dark back room, right, looking through film. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you know you're really investigating. Come on.
Yet, this memory has survived, and it only has to be...
Oh, yeah, you need a magnifying glass, too. Yeah.
Slightly. This memory has survived.
Ah! That was me. Hang on, y'all. I just see, this is why you don't mess with it, Patrick, because you just screwed it up. My bad, y'all. Hang on 2 seconds.
And it's like the floodgates open and all the memories come rushing out.
I was precipitating various chemicals in order to make crystals, and I just happened to be looking out the window, thinking how to fudge my science report. What I saw directly south was something that I'd never seen before.
We were out playing sport on the oval. One of the kids yelled out, look up in the sky, you know, it's flying saucers. And I remember we all looked up and it really was a flying saucer. I mean, from what you imagine, a flying saucer, it was a round silver disc, and it seemed to be very low over the school. And I remember kids screaming and running inside.
This student came in, was hysterical, leaned up against a sliding door, screaming, "There's a flying saucer in the oval." And of course everybody started to head towards the door, and the teacher said, "Sit down, it's not recess yet." And a few minutes later the bell went off.
Everyone started moving, like a whole lot of zebras being terrified by crocodiles. I went where the herd went. Barbara Robbins was the chemistry teacher at the time. She just grabbed a camera and started clicking.
I went into the staff room. Because I knew I wouldn't have a chance to have a cup of tea any other time, I went to get a cup of tea. And then because I was a smoker, and this is something that has stayed with me for 42 years.
Yes.
I lit up a cigarette. And so I don't know how much I delayed before I went outside.
Everyone just took off out into the oval. In time to see it lifting off from the oval. It was probably, I don't know, 50 feet or more in the air at that stage.
I see Andrew Greenwood, the science teacher, coming towards me, and he said, "Did you see it? Did you see it?" And he pointed up in the air, and I said, "No, see what?" I have a very, very clear picture of him, and I remember almost exactly what he said. And he said it was up in the sky, it moved at incredible speeds, it hovered, it seemed to go away, and there seemed to be light planes. He thought Cessnas he thought they were actually checking it out from the Melbourne airport, and they were circling around it.
Sort of stopped dead, and stopped dead in the air, and then it just sort of started descending straight down. And I'd say it got down about halfway up that gum tree or above the goalpost and sat there for a while, and then it just sort of lifted straight up and then just took straight off.
What does Form 3B mean? If anyone from Australia watching this can put that down in the comments. I don't know what that means.
It went down behind the trees, then it came up. And it was like it had become aware of these planes coming in, and it just went woof and just left them like they were standing still.
And then it went across to an area called the Grange, which was a bit of a pine plantation behind the school.
Because I walk around with the Westall story inside my head, as soon as I enter the landscape of Westall, out it comes like a three-dimensional children's storybook. It pops up out of the soil. It's like I've entered my favourite children's story. The Grange was a special place for Westall students. It's where they went on cross-country runs, but it's also where childhood games and hunting for lizards gave way to illicit smoking and steamy liaisons.
Going the wrong way now. Let's be back here.
This flying saucer thing came out of the blue like a bolt. It's intertwined with romping around down at the Grange, out of sight of the school authorities or their parents. It has that sense of being involved with something dangerous,
or clandestine, and they were part of it.
A lot of the kids took off towards where it seemed to go, and it disappeared down behind the trees. So we all got through this fence and ran towards where it had appeared to land.
Tanya and I and this other girl, we were over the fence. Tanya was in the lead, and we ran towards where it was coming down. Tanya! I lost sight of Tanya. She was in front of me.
A couple of girls got there faster than me. I was a bit slow, and they actually passed out. And apparently it did land, because when we got there, there was a great big round patch of like flattened yellow, almost burnt, although I'm a bit sketchy on that. I can't remember if it was really burnt or whether it was just flattened, but it was sort of yellow, and the grass was all flattened in a swirly sort of a pattern.
Before I got there, the disc came back up again, so I stopped chasing it.
We looked up and we just saw this saucer type thing taking off, and it seemed to turn side on and just disappear into thin air.
Well, what about your friend Tanya?
I believe she did see it on the ground.
She did see it on the ground?
So I was given to believe, yes. But I went back to school, and Tanya went back to school and basically had gone all to pieces. There was definitely an ambulance on the oval, and I was told that she'd been taken away in the ambulance, and that was the last time I ever saw her.
Wow.
She was just gone, and she never came back to school.
Tanya wasn't the only person who saw the craft on the ground. Before they headed over to the Grange, Victor Zakruzny says 2 objects landed in a grassy paddock where a street is now.
All the kids were hanging on the fence there. There's quite a few kids there. It's a high fence, and I got up to the top there, and all you could see is 2 discs, one there and one a bit further away, probably 3 metres apart. I could hear somebody in the background saying, "Stay away, don't jump the fence," and so I said, "Oh, bugger, I'm going over the fence." The craft probably would have been about there, and there was another one set back a bit on an angle, probably just about there.
Just the way they describe this stuff, right? Let's be real. And again, clearly this is the kids as adults, right? But just the way they describe it, it just sounds like a real memory. All right. This is a very intriguing, fascinating case, I have to admit. Westall, man. Australia, 1966. Just a different time, right? Not so much burned into, the brains of everybody, of social media and movies and TV. Yes, there was some, but not like there is today, right? So people were just different. And the way that they're describing this stuff it just sounds like a real memory, right? There's no sense of deception. Again, now what they're saying they saw doesn't necessarily mean E.T. or alien, but they saw something. Something happened, and the things that they're saying happened, I believe them. It's fascinating. I gotta be honest with you.
There's a few kids walking around there, and I was the only one on this side. I got up to it to want to touch it, and it was, well, you could feel heat about a metre away coming from. It was pretty warm or hot, and within a minute or so, it just, both of them just lifted up at the same time, about this height. And I seen that was breathtaking watching that, and then it just gradually lifted up, and then went off towards the pines.
See the way he described that? He could, like the way he was looking at it, he was visualizing it right in front of them. And then even stopping mid-story to like be intrigued by something he saw in it, right? Like, oh, that was fascinating, that part. Remember that happened. That was cool. Again, now, what did they see? I don't know. But they saw something. This idea that they didn't see anything, they saw something. And the way he describes what he saw is terrifying. And you're a child? Oh, my God. I mean, I was scared of clowns as a kid. I think I still am. Can't imagine seeing something like this.
I did a rough sketch of it.
Wow.
Look at that. This is the view from underneath. It looks
That's
like.
underneath. There's no seams, no joints, it's just smooth metal. Normally an aircraft has sheet metal, pipe rivets, or all that sort of stuff there. This looked like come out of a mould or something like that, all one smooth piece of metal.
How many times have you heard that?
It's just incredible. It's just something like you see in the movies.
But this is more than just cinema. If we look at the possibilities for this story, they are extraordinary. We're talking about the possibility of life coming from another place and just appearing one day in their midst, and then leaving again and leaving everybody with so many questions, but with a new openness to the beyond. If I'd been at Westall on that day, I would like to have raced after that flying saucer and gotten so close to it, to have held it in my hands. But the adults at Westall High School saw it differently.
That afternoon, our principal called a special assembly and told us all not to talk about it.
Okay, don't worry. We're going to go to part 2 here.
All I know is the whole school was told off. The headmaster says, all you kids are nuts. It's a weather balloon. Don't talk about it.
I was prepped to tell the students that what they'd seen didn't exist. We weren't allowed to leave the school, at least I wasn't. My job was to walk up and down the corridors and make sure that all students were in their rooms. I was walking back from the West End. There was a confrontation between Mr. Sambleby, Barbara Robbins, and a man I'd never seen before. I thought it was a police uniform, but it was just dark blue. It was demanded that she hand over not the film, but the entire camera.
I was near the gate and the police had arrived.
There were journalists outside. The police are being caught in to keep the journalists away.
We were told that we weren't allowed to speak to the media in school grounds. After school finished, there was a TV crew outside the school grounds, so we undertook an interview with them.
Everyone took off onto the oval.
Now, I can't remember whether it was a principal or a school representative that came out and ordered us to go home and the film crew to leave.
And I'd actually been giving an interview to Channel 9 and the policeman actually walked up to them and said, stop filming and you go back into the school ground. Okay, so that's what I did. I was 12 and a half years old.
Because I was a mischievous sort of person, I was always getting into trouble. I had detention for actually appearing on the show, and then I got detention again at a later date after my picture and story was in the Dandenong Journal. So I didn't go unpunished, but it was worth it.
She was a troublemaker.
I now had 2 new leads to follow, Channel 9 and the Dandenong Journal. I rang Channel 9 first. They searched for a flying saucer story, and there it was. Now all I have to do is find the can with the matching number.
This is old school, y'all.
But oddly, there was nothing there. I was absolutely devastated, and nobody had any idea where it had gone.
I'll tell you where it went.
It's very frustrating, but the good news is the Dandenong Journal does still exist, and I'm told it's here in the library. It's the only written account I've heard of from the period, so it's really precious.
Oh, wow. Come on, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. Old school investigative work here, right? Getting old newspapers like this, right? Look at this stain right here. This is what you want. I remember this. Who else remembers these days of going in to your local library and, you know, it used to be on like this weird, I don't even know how to describe the machine that would light up the newspaper, and you had it in front of you. I don't even know what those were called. And you'd go back and forth like, you know, I think it had film strips, right? So it was putting that up, but yeah, right. Old school, man. And then getting the actual newspapers, right? And going through it like this. Great. This is what I'm talking about.
Westall High School. Something obviously happened. Some people apparently didn't want the kids talking about it, and that raises all sorts of questions. Why couldn't it have been discussed? Why couldn't it have been talked about openly? And why couldn't anybody find any more information about what it was?
The headmaster, Frank Sambleby, is a key part of the story. He's passed away, but I hope his children, Max and Gail, can shed some light on his behaviour.
Hello, Shane here. Anybody home?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Max? Nice to meet
Hi.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
He played 50 games for the Hawthorn Football Club. He was a half-back flanker, and in those days, half-back flankers ran in straight lines, and that's what he did.
He was pretty black and white, and he had a very strong sense of right and wrong, and yeah, if it didn't fit in with what he believed, then yeah, he found it quite difficult.
And this thing would have been seen as something that was disrupting the smooth operation of the school.
And he would have been a sceptic as well. I mean, he didn't believe in supernatural things. He believed in the real life, didn't he? You know, when we were kids, there was a picture on the wall of a Roman soldier standing, holding his spear, and the lava was all falling down from Pompeii, and people in the background were all crouching and running. And Dad said, see, he's standing there doing his duty. And, you know, that, I mean, as children, we had to learn that discipline was important, respect, all those things, all the old values. And, yeah, he found it really hard as things changed he was pretty judgmental.
There was plenty for Frank Sambleby to be judgmental about. In the 1960s, rebellion at home and on the streets brought many young people into conflict with the establishment. Schools were run like the military, and teachers demanded respect and obedience. Westall High was no exception. I tried to contact some of the teachers, but many have passed away. As far as I know, only the science teacher, Andrew Greenwood, saw the object in the air. Although he's spoken with me privately, he refuses to go on the public record. Several teachers dismissed the whole thing as mass hysteria. The response left students feeling confused and conflicted. Some are still searching for answers.
I want to find some sort of proof that this happened, so we don't keep on, you know, getting called silly people. And, you know, no one's ever wanted to know the details before. They just think I'm stupid, and, you know, they don't want to know the story. I said, I've seen UFOs or flying saucers, and they say, yeah, sure. What drugs were you on that day? And, you know, I was 13 years old. I was at school in the daytime. I wasn't on any drugs.
Dude, that woman is real. Real as real gets, right? I think a lot of people watching right now seeing that, what a great moment to include in this, because that little piece to camera that she did right there says so much about incidents like this, giving your story out, right, like this, coming forward, and telling other people about it, whether it be a small group, someone close to you, or a bigger group, or public, right? Different levels of sort of telling that story, right? And how people feel about it, right? You're stupid. You must be on drugs. And actually mean it, you know? Can't say that I haven't been there myself, thinking about some of this when I was younger, right? And maybe still do it subconsciously to this day. Even if, you know, you have an open mind, there's just going to be stories depending, everyone's different. You're just going to hear stuff and think, well, that person's an idiot, you know? I mean, we all make that mistake to jump to being judgmental. It happens to all of us, you know? Let's be real. But we should be better at it. Look how it makes people like that woman feel, right? Look, they know they saw something. It's not like their story is built off of something happening, right? So they're not crazy. It's the real question is just, what was that something, right? But again, you hear the way that they tell the stories about this. Come on, y'all. It's fascinating. Okay, there's only 5 minutes left here, and then we're done with the clip.
Slowly you start to drift. I'd like you to visualize the area that we've discussed before. You're in the classroom. You're with Mr. Greenwood, who was the teacher there. There's a little fella comes running around and says, there, flying saucers outside, flying saucers outside. Everybody laughed. And Mr. Greenwood said, come on then, let's have a look. See yourself running down the Oval.
We're all affected by it.
I don't know how I feel about hypnotherapy like that. Seems very susceptible as you're telling them. But I don't know. That's interesting.
Our experiences that aren't ever properly acknowledged or accepted. As a boy, I was living in a fairly unhappy home. My own father had died, so my mother had remarried and had given me a stepfather that I'd never asked for. I was quite powerless, and no one really seemed to understand what I was experiencing as a child. I never really had anyone talk to me about it. Just having it acknowledged that what I was going through was real, that would have been a start.
1, 2, 3.
Even though I know it's true, the more I try to see it again, the harder it becomes, I think. I can see bodies, but I can't see people, faces, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I can still see the trees and the...
Yeah, and the things.
It was, yeah.
The feelings don't go away. They just get buried and they sort of fester a little bit.
I saw the classroom for the first time, and then I saw heads bobbing, walking across the oval towards the end of the school ground, and then there they were. Still not 100% clear, but I know what they are. They're UFOs.
If they were UFOs, there should be people around the area who can corroborate what the students saw. A headmaster might be able to shut down a high school, but surely not a whole suburb. Within days of delivering my flyers, I'm contacted by a new witness, Paul Smith, who used to work on a property next door to the Grange.
We were loading up for market, and as we were pulling the carrots up, I looked up and I was facing the object in the sky, and I just thought, oh, somebody's got some way of projecting a film of something into the sky. I didn't believe that it was really happening. But my boss turned around and he saw it, and we stood there looking at it for several minutes. A few moments later, the children came over from the high school and they noticed us, they saw us, and they sort of took a while to make up their mind whether they would come onto the property, realising it's private property.
Yes.
And they decided they'd come in anyway, and they did. They ran straight over the market garden, and they crossed and walked down here to this corner. After a while, trucks turned up with, it looked like army trucks.
Right.
And there would have been about 20 guys got out.
About how long after the object had vanished in the trees?
Oh, I think it was only 20 minutes, which is not a long time.
How did you know they were from the army?
Well, they were khaki-coloured trucks, the covered in patches, you know, sort of that they to hide, you know.
Like camouflage?
Camouflage truck, yeah. And it was the long ones that carry quite a few people, and a couple of jeeps.
So a couple of trucks,
and
a couple of
jeeps.
jeeps, and about 20 men in uniforms?
Yeah.
And the uniforms were what sort of uniforms?
Just khaki-coloured uniform.
Just khaki?
Yeah.
No other, don't remember any other sort
Not
of...
that I can remember.
Colours or...
No.
Khaki-coloured uniforms? Is he saying khaki? I can't with that Australian accent. Khaki. Is he saying khaki? Or is he talking about the camouflage again? What's he saying? Khaki? I can't. Again, I don't know. That's interesting.
I went looking for a military expert. If the army was able to turn up in just 20 minutes, where could they possibly have come from?
It's quite evident that there was no deployable troops.
Well, there we go, y'all. Again, I'll put links in the description. Y'all go check this out. There's more to that particular piece, which is great. It aired originally on Sci-Fi Channel. Anyway, there's 2 more parts to just that piece, but there's way more online with the witnesses. I mean, there's so much. So Westall, again, I'm sure y'all been, talk about it in the comments. There's a lot to this, way more than what was shown today, which makes that case so fascinating. So anyway, hope y'all enjoyed. We'll see you on tomorrow's video. Remember, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, let me know in the comments what you think about this Westall 1966 case, right? Over 300 witnesses. That's nuts. All right. This tooth that's making all my S's come out like, I love it. Anyway. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift. For real, there's some balloons. Peace.